What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nasha, welcome back to the channel. Now you guys know, normally I would do a Yu-Gi-Oh news video on a Tuesday, but unfortunately there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. I'll probably wait until like next week or possibly Saturday. It depends on what video I decide to post on Saturday. But as I completely forget to bring out my extension cord for my laptop, I've decided to do, there we go, I've decided to do a deck profile, but this one's going to be a little bit interesting because this is actually my updated Magnet Warrior deck. Now obviously Magnet Warriors did get a little bit of support over the last year. Obviously with the addition of Magnet Induction, which I believe was from King's Court last year, and then of course the new one, Epsilon, the Magnet Warrior from Battle of Chaos. I did do a little bit of remodeling with the extra deck, just a little bit, not a whole lot, just a little bit. And then of course the side deck, I just completely revamped the side deck just completely. So I'm not gonna waste any time. I'm just gonna get straight. I'm just gonna get straight into the deck profile, and hopefully you guys do enjoy this deck profile. If you guys did enjoy it and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up. Turn on that notification bell, and make sure you guys follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. All of my links will be in the description below, and of course for fan mail. If you guys want to send me fan mail, which you guys are more welcome to send me whatever you guys want, the address will also be in the description as well. Anyway, guys, let's get straight into it. Obviously, if you're playing Magnet Warriors, you gotta have 2 copies of Beta the Magnet Warrior, Gamma the Magnet Warrior, and Alpha the Magnet Warrior, as well as a copy of Valkyrion the Magnet Warrior. The only reason why I decided to run 2 of the Magnet Warriors and the one Valkyrion is because of the fact that Valkyrion is basically a floater. So if you have all 3 Magnet Warriors in your hand, field in your hand or your field, you just tribute them, and then you can summon Valkyrion right off the bat. And I believe and I believe also too if you want to go into your Xyz plays or perhaps your Link plays, you can just tribute Valkyrion and resummon the Magnet Warriors to your field from your graveyard and go into your Link plays. That way when you recycle this card back to your hand, you actually have a way to you actually have your Link plays. So in this sense, you can go into cards like Deco Talker or perhaps Nightmare Unicorn if need be. So that's why I only chose to run 2 of each, and then the one Magna Warrior. We also have the 2 copies of Berserkion the Electro Magna Warrior. This one is kind of a weird one, but what's cool about this is that it's actually a board wipe. So if you guys have never seen this card before, I believe this was released in I believe the Yugi Structure deck, if I remember correctly, that had all the Magnet Warriors in it. So its effect reads: cannot be normal summon or sand. Must first be special summon from your hand by banishing 1 Alpha the Electromagnet Warrior, Beta the Electromagnet Warrior, and Gamma the Electromagnet Warrior from your hand, graveyard, and or face up from your monster zone. This is where the board wipe comes into play. You can banish one level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster from your graveyard, and then target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. If this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target one each of the Electromagnet Warriors and special summon them. So with this, this is basically your big board wipe for the whole deck. So if your opponent has, let's say they've got a bunch of back row, and you don't want to deal with that, you can banish. You can banish your Electromagnet Warriors, and you can easily just revive. Sorry, mind went blank. You can just banish your Magnet Warriors and just pop your opponent's back row, which is really good. Another thing too, and it actually kind of dawned on me. There's actually a way that you can actually bring back your Electromagnet Warriors, but I realized it's not even that. I realized I didn't even put it in the side, so I'm actually going to take one of the cards out. I think I'm going to take this one out and put this one in. I do apologize. I didn't realize that I fucked up. Anyway, now that that's out of the way. So again, it's a way for you to pop your opponent's board while at the same time try to go for game. Because if you have both Valkyrion and Berserkion, you can and you have Poly in hand, you can activate Poly, fuse them together, and then just summon Empyrean Magnum, the superconductive battle bot, which is just a fucking house. Then of course we've got 2 copies of Elemental Hero Prisma. Yes, I am running a hero package of sorts. So because that I am running Elemental Hero Gaia in the deck, which oftentimes can be a super poly target if you were running if you were running super poly in like your main or your side, then Gaia can actually be a really good super poly target because it just requires one elemental hero and a earth monster. So this card is not too bad. But what's cool about Prisma is that it can become pretty much any other fusion material that they want. So let's say for example, Valkyrion got banished when it was sent to your graveyard. So let's say for example, let's say for example you want to summon Empyrean Magnum, but the only monster you have on board or in hand is Valkyrion. You can normal summon the Prisma, activate its effect, send Berserkion to your graveyard. Prisma now becomes Berserkion, which will then allow you to activate Poly, fuse them together, and you can easily summon Empyrean Magnum right off the bat, which is a really cool tech. But what's also even more interesting is that it's an elemental hero, meaning you can actually summon Gaia just off of that alone, which is just absurd. Then of course we have 2 copies of Delta the Magnet Warrior. This was one of the new ones that was released, I believe in the structure deck. So if you guys have never seen this card before, The effect reads, if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster from your deck to your graveyard. So it acts as sort of like a Foolish Burial. So with this, you can activate Delta's effect, send, I'll say Beta the Electro Magnet Warrior to your graveyard, and you can just easily combo off from there as well, which is really cool. The other effect reads, if this card is sent to the grave, you can banish 3 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monsters from your grave. Except this card, special summon one Valkyrion from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning condition. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this is another really good way to summon Valkyrion from your hand if it was compulsed back to your hand. Because oftentimes there's going to be decks that you'll be facing where the monsters will have a compulsed effect, and Valkyrion may end up getting compulsed back to the hand, and Delta can just ensures that Valkyrion comes back to the field. And plus Valkyrion is a 3500 beat stick on board, which is just insane. But what's even more cool is that it's an Earth, so it works well in conjunction with Mrs. Radiant, where all of your Earth monsters will gain 500 attack and defense, which is just absurd. So just off of Mrs. Radiant alone, Delta's effect, his attack will go up to 2100, which is a pretty nice beat stick on board as well. Plus you're running 1, 2, 3 rank 4 Xyz monsters, which any one of your level 4s, you can go to cards like Gallant Granite, Evil Swarm Exotonite, or even Daigostal Emerald, which is a pretty busted card to say the very least. Why is Emerald busted? Simple, Zodiac. And not only that, this deck runs a pretty hefty amount of Link monsters, which is really nice to say, really cool to say the very least. Then, of course, speaking of Epsilon, we are actually running 2 copies of the new one, Epsilon the Magnet Warrior. I have talked about this on the channel before, but if you guys did not watch that video, I recommend watching it because it was pretty crazy. So the effect reads, if this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster from your deck to the graveyard, except this card. This card's name becomes the sent monster's name until the end phase. Then you can special summon a Magnet Warrior or Magna Warrior from your graveyard with a different name than the cards you control. You can only use this effect once per turn. So what's cool about this is that it's a Foolish Burial, but it's a Monster Reborn as well. So this will help you resummon Berserkion if you have it in your graveyard, which is really cool. And not only that, 1300, it becomes an 1800 body off of the effects of Mrs. Radiant, which is not too bad, not too shabby. But again, you want to try and maximize. You want to try and maximize having your Magna Warriors in your graveyard. That way, when you resummon them, you'll be prepared to go into your Imperium Magna, which is one of the boss monsters of the whole deck itself, which is really cool. Then, of course, for the Electro Magna Warriors, we have 2 Alpha, 2 Beta, and 2 Gamma. Alpha is really cool because Alpha is basically it's basically a Stratos for the deck. So it allows so when it's normal or special summon, it allows you to add one of your Magna Warriors from your deck to your hand. And what's cool about this is that during your opponent's turn, you can tribute this card, and you're able and you can just summon any 4-star Magna Warrior from your deck, which is a quick effect. So you can actually activate this card. So you can actually activate the effect during your opponent's battle phase if you don't want this card to be want the card to be like bash or something. You can just tribute this, summon the beta, or actually rather summon Gamma in defense, and then be able to trigger off trigger off your other plays and you can just combo out from there, which is really cool. Beta is kind of an interesting one, because when it's normal summon, you can add a level 4 or lower Magna Warrior from your deck to your hand, obviously except this card. But what's cool about this is that each of the Magna Warriors has the same effect, where you're able to special summon a level 4 Magna Warrior monster from your deck, which is really cool. But each of them has their own first effect. So obviously Alpha searches out your Magna Warriors. Beta allows you to add a level 4 lower Magnet Warrior from your deck to your hand. Gamma allows you to special summon a Magna Warrior from your hand. So each of them has their own really cool effect, and it even helps you go into your Mrs. Radiant plays, your Nightmare plays, even also can help you go into your Xyz plays if need be, which is really cool. And then to round out the rest of the monsters, we've got 2 Ash Blossom, 2 Ghost Bell, 1 Morphine Jar, and 2 Doki Doki. Ash Blossom obviously focuses on cards that are being added, special summoned, or sent cards from the deck. Ghost Bell is the opposite of that. Morphine Jar just gives you a completely new hand. Yes, it does give your opponent a new hand, but as long as you don't have any cards in your hand, this card basically becomes a free +5 right off the bat, which is really cool. And then Doki Doki just allows you to special summon a rock monster from your deck with the same attribute as any other rock monster that you discarded, which obviously all of your Magna Warriors, everything that they have, with the exception of Prisma and the hand traps, are all rocks, so you're pretty much just good to go from there. Moving on into the spells, we have 2 copies of Magnet Induction. This is one of the new ones that was released in, I believe, King's Court. So if you guys have never seen this card before, its effect reads, if you control a Magnet Warrior monster whose original level is 4 or lower, special summon a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior from your deck with a different name than the cards you control. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this effect resolves, Magnet Warriors and Magnet Warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Can only activate one Magnet Induction per turn. So this basically acts as a protection for all of your Magnet and your Magna Warriors. So if you have, let's say, Valkyrion and I'll say Gamma, the Electro Magnet Warrior, you can basically just summon out. You can just summon Delta right off. You can summon Delta right off the bat off of Magnet Induction, trigger Delta's effect, and then just Foolish Burial. I'll say your Beta for your Beta, the Electromagnet Warrior, and you just combo out from there, which is really cool. Then, of course, we got the Fusion Recovery, and then the 3 Polymerization. The 1 Fusion Recovery is mainly there just to bring back your Valkyrion and your Polymerization, but obviously the Poly is not the one you want the most. Obviously, you want Valkyrion the most, but obviously adding the Poly is a mandatory effect, but still being able to get back Valkyrion from your graveyard, it's pretty nice. Then, of course, again, the 3 Poly, because you got three different fusions. There is another one in the side, but I'll explain that in a second. Then, of course, we got the one Monster Reborn, because it's Monster Reborn. 2 copies of Book of Moon, mainly for the Morphine Jar plays. So the effect of Morphine Jar is not on once per turn. It does not say activate the effect once per turn. It just says flip. Both players discard as many cards as possible from their hands. Then each player draws 5. So, as long as you don't have any cards in your hand, Morphing Jar essentially becomes a free +5, and if your opponent were to attack into the Morphing Jar while it's face up, you can just chain Book of Moon, flip it face down, and when it gets flipped back face up, you get basically another +5 off of that, which is really cool. Then to round up the spells, we've got the one Call By. Obviously, Call By the Grave is still one of the most broken cards in the game. Still don't know why it's at 1, but still, you want your place to go through. Then, of course, for the field spells, we've got the 2 Magnet Field, which is a really cool card because this card basically acts as sort of like a protection of sorts. So its effect reads: if you control a level 4 or lower Earth Rock monster, you can target a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use this effect once per turn. Once per turn, at the end of the damage step, if an Earth Rock monster you control battled an opponent's monster, but the opponent's monster was not destroyed by battle, you can return that opponent's monster to the hand. So it's basically not only is it a protection. Well, I would say it's a protection, but it's more so. But it's basically a Monster Reborn Compulse. So I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. Being able to just revive one of your rock monsters and be able to compulse your opponent's monsters back to the hand. That's actually pretty nice. And then to round out the spells, we've got the 1 Catapult Zone, which is basically which is kind of like a Foolish Burial protection of sorts. It's kind of hard to say, but basically what the field spell does is once per turn, it says once per turn, if a monster you control would be destroyed by battle, you can send a rock monster from your deck to the grave instead. So it's like a Foolish Burial, but as you're sending your monsters to your graveyard from your deck, you're also protecting your monsters from being destroyed, which is really cool. So you want to try and maximize having this and Magnet Field in hand as much as possible, so you can actually use their effects to just combo off and just summon out all of your big guys and just go off from there. And then moving on into the traps, there are only 4 in the deck. We have 2 copies of Imperm, and then a single Solemn Strike and a single Solemn Warning. Obviously, you don't want to pay life points, but if you want to negate, if you want to have a good amount of negation on board, these 4 hand traps are the best ones to use. Moving on into the extra deck, though I'm going to actually be going from links to fusions for this one. So first up, we got the Mrs. Radiant. This card, I don't know why this card is broken, but it's broken. So obviously it requires 2 Earth monsters. So for a deck like this, it's pretty generic. But the effect reads, all Earth monsters on the field gain 500 attack and defense. Also, all Wind monsters on the field lose 400 attack and defense. If this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can target 1 Earth monster in your grave, add it to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. So obviously, you really don't care about adding cards from the grave back to the hand because it can easily be negated off the effects of Ghost Spell. But what's cool about this is that because you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 monsters that are 5 monsters in the extra deck that are Earth, and the rest and the main deck is also Earth. That's a pretty good amount of attack going towards your opponent, and this card basically is a counter to Dragunities, which Dragunities are mostly wind, which is just insane. But again, giving it and giving all Earth monsters 500 extra attack and defense, it's kind of like a Seal Void Calicos, but for Earth, which is really cool. Then of course we got the one IP Masquerena. This card is mainly in the deck to summon out, to easily help you summon out cards like Boral Sword or Decode Togger or something like that, which is really cool. Then of course we got the Nightmare package. We got Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. Cerberus focuses on popping cards, on popping monsters on your opponent's board that were special summon. Nightmare Phoenix focuses on the back row, and then Unicorn actually just compulses the cards from the field back into the deck, which is really cool. Then of course, and what's even more cool is that if all three are co-linked together, you basically get to draw one card each. So that's 3 cards plus. That's pretty cool. Then of course we got the one Decode Talker. Not only is this a really nice card to give 500 extra attack to, but what's also cool about this is that if your opponent were to activate a card like, say, Regeki, which is at 3, you can just tribute one of your monsters that you can just basically tribute a monster that this card points to, negate the activation, and destroy. So it's basically it's a link version of Solemn Judgment, which is really cool. Then of course too, one thing that you guys know is that I always try to come up with alternate ways to have game on board, if you will. Now obviously cards like Avermax and cards like Axis Code Talker are stupid expensive. But there's one card that is actually really good, but it's not even that cheap. Not that cheap. It's not even that expensive. What is it, you may ask? It is known as Wrestler Liger. If you guys have never seen this card before, this was actually a part. I believe this was one of the. I think I might still have it. Oh, let me see if I saw it, because I think I do. Let me take a look. Here it is. Here it is. I actually have it with me. This was actually I believe a promo. I believe this was from Fists of the Gadgets. Actually, so it's a pretty cool one. So it's pretty cool. I completely forgot. I completely forgot that I had it. I completely forgot that I still had it with me. But Wrestler Liger is basically the alternate win condition to Axis Code Talker. So if you guys have never seen this card before, it's a light Cyberse Link 4 with 2000 attack, and its arrows are top, left, bottom, right, and it requires 2 or more monsters except for tokens. The effect reads: you can target one Link monster and have the graveyard this card gains attack equal to that target's attack until the end of the turn. You can tribute any number of monsters this card points to, destroy an equal number of cards on the field. So it's basically your alternate win condition to a card like Axis Code Talker, like Crusadia Avermax, which is really cool. And then speaking of alternate win conditions, we also got Boral Sword. Not much else to say about that. Moving on into the Xyz monsters, we got the one copy of Gargonic Guardian. This card is a really old card, released in, I believe, Legacy of the Valiant, back in like 2013, 2014, like somewhere around there. It's a rank 3 Dark Rock Xyz with 1600 attack and 1200 defense, and it requires 2 level 3 rock monsters. So because that you have, because that you've got the Electromagnet Warriors, it basically that's just pretty much all you need. The effect reads, once per turn, during either player's turn, you can detach a material from this card, and the target face of monster your opponent controls, its attack becomes 0, and if it does, its effects are negated. These effects last until the end of the turn. Once per turn, you can target a monster on the field with 0 attack and destroy. So, basically, this is a way to force your opponent to activate cards like, to chain cards like Crystal Wing, Stardust, Imperm. This card is basically a way to out one of your opponent's big problematic cards, especially cards like Shizuku and so many other big boss monsters. This card just is a house. Even though it's 1600 attack, it's a way to out one of your opponent's card. It's a way to out your opponent's big problematic cards if they don't negate it. But if they do, it's basically a bait to go into your big boss plays. Then of course we've got the one Daigoso Emerald. This card is just a house. Honestly, it's just a house. So the effect reads, once per turn, you can detach one material from this card. Excuse me. Then activate one of these effects. Target 3 monsters in your grave, shuffle all 3 into the deck, and draw 1 card. Target a non-effect monster in your grave, special summon it. So it's basically a monster reborn for your Magnet Warriors, but it's also a sort of like a Moray of Greed, which is just absurd. This was the reason why this card got banned during Goki format, because the Zodiac form, because Zodiacs were still around during the time of sets like Code of the Duelist and Circuit Break, where there weren't a whole lot of Link monsters, but there were some that were so generic, Zodiacs would abuse them to the point of no return. And what's even more crazy is that this was one of the big problematic cards that the Zodiac players were running, mainly because of the fact that you could just resummon one of your Zodiacs, go into your Zodiac plays and just combo off from there, which was just absurd. Then of course we've got the one Evil Swarm Exciton. Now this is basically Nibiru, which is just really cool. Not much else to say about that. And then of course we got the Gallant Granite. This card basically is a way to search out your Morphing Jar, your Doki Doki. It's just basically a Stratos. But what's even more cool is that you can also if you added the Morphing Jar during your next turn, you can detach Gallant Granite's other material, set the Morphing Jar, and you're just off to the races there. And then for the fusions, we got the one Elemental Hero guy. I had already talked about it before, but this card is just a house. So obviously it has to be fusion summoned. It cannot be summoned by the ways, but its effects is where things get really interesting. When this card is fusion summoned, target one face-up monster your opponent controls until the end phase. Its attack is halved, and this card gains the same amount of attack. So basically, its attack can go up to a pretty decent amount, which is not too bad. And then of course we got the 2 copies of Empyrean Magnum, the Superconductive Battle Bot. This card is insane. Obviously, it requires Valkyrion and Berserkion, but if you have Prisma, you're off to you can still summon this card easily. But here's its effect. Must be fusion summoned with the above materials and cannot be summoned by other ways. Once per turn, during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell, trap, or monster effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. If this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of the opponent's card effect, you can still summon both Valkyrion and Berserkion from your hand or deck, ignoring their summoning condition. So this card is busted. Absolutely busted. So obviously because that you have So because that you have cards like Epsilon and Monster Reborn, you can just re-summon them, and you're just off to the races there. So Imperium Magnum, Valkyrion, Berserkion, and you basically have your house. Mixed in with a Mrs. Radiant, and I'll say a Deco Talker, you pretty much have your board right there, which is just absurd. Moving on into the side deck, I completely revamped the side deck just a little bit, but we've got 2 copies of Nibiru. Obviously, this is basically another Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. So you basically have 3. It's as if you've got 3 Nibirus in the deck, which is really cool. Elemental Hero Honest Neos, only 1 copy though. I only have it in here mainly for the plays of Elemental Hero Gaia to help win games, which is really cool. So if you guys have never seen this card before, this card is absolutely insane. This card is just absolutely stupid. So the effect reads, as a quick effect, you can discard this card to target a hero monster on the field. It gains 2500 attack until the end of the turn. As a quick effect, you can discard a hero monster. This card gains attack equal to the discarded monster's attack until the end of the turn. You can only use each effect once per turn. So obviously, you're using Honest Neos for the first effect, where it's basically a hand trap. Can it be negated by the effects of call by? Absolutely, yes it can. But what's cool about this is that because that you're gonna have a card like say Solemn Warning, you're pretty much off to the races there. So 2200 plus whatever attack it gained off a guy's effect, plus the additional 2500 attack from Honest Neos, that's about a 56, possibly up to 8,000 attack. Maybe even 10,000 for all we know, which is really cool. Then, of course, I am running the Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer package. So, because that you have Gaia, 2 Prisma, Honest Neos, and then, of course, the Dasher and Celestial package, Phoenix Enforcer's attack effect is going to blow your mind. So, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So if you have all of your heroes in your graveyard, your 2 Prismas, your Gaia, your Honest Neos, your Dasher, and your Celestial, all of your opponent's monsters will lose 200 attack for each. So let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 1,000, 1,200. All of your opponent's monsters will lose 1,200 attack, which is absurd. And not only that, Dasher basically allows you to special summon a monster from if you drew a monster during your draw phase, during your standby phase, during your standby phase, if Dasher is in your graveyard and you were to draw a monster during your draw phase, you can just summon it right off the bat. No matter what the monster is. Even if it was a Berserkion, you can just summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is just absurd. Which is just absurd. You can only gain, I believe you can only gain the effect once. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. So the effect reads one time only. When you draw a monster card during your draw phase, while this card is in your grave, you can reveal it, special summon it. This card must be in the grave to activate and to resolve it. Yeah. So Dasher allows to resummon, allows you to summon a monster from your hand if you had drawn that monster during the draw phase. Celestial basically is a pot of greed. Not much else to say about that. And then Destroying Phoenix Enforcer is just a fucking house. And the craziest part, you can actually resummon Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer during the standby phase when you use this effect, which is just absurd. Now, because that you're going to be doing a lot of banishing with this deck, Cyphering Lord Omega is the best card to do it. I was running what's the card? can't even think of it. Ally of Justice Decisive Armor. I was running that card in the side, but the reason why I decided to take it out and replace it with Omega is because Omega has the effect where once per turn during the standby phase, during your opponent's standby phase, you can target one card that's banished and put it back into the graveyard. So because that you're going to be doing a lot of banishing off of the effects of Berserkion, where you can just pop cards right off the bat, Omega just ensures that you have that they have more and more negations for Berserkion, which is just absurd. And then of course we've got the Cyber Dragon Infinity Zeus combo. Not much to say about that. We got the one Fusion Destiny for the Phoenix Enforcer. Super Poly, as just in case if you don't see any of your polys to summon Gaia, Super Poly is just there to help you summon Gaia right off the bat, especially if you're going up against heroes. This card will be useful. And then to round out the side, we got 2 copies of Twin Twister to stop back row, and then 2 copies of Waking the Dragon, one for Cyber Infinity, the other one for Omega. So all in all, this is a pretty cool deck. It took me a while to get this deck updated, but the only changes that I made were obviously the additions of Ghost Spell, Epsilon, Magnet Induction, switched up the extra deck a little bit with Decode and Cerberus, and then of course the side deck was just a cleaned up crew. So let me know in the comments below your guys' thoughts on the deck, and I'll be sure to post it on my Instagram about an hour or two after this video gets posted. So make sure you guys follow me on Instagram. The link is in the description. And that will do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button if you guys are new to the channel and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you guys do not miss out on any new content that comes your way. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. All the links will be down in the description below. And if you guys have any fan mail you want to send me and want me to open up on the channel, my address will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.